Part 1. The Big Decision. The day everything started. Luc was 25 years old and lived in Lyon, France. He worked in a small engineering company and had a calm but monotonous life. Every morning, he woke up at 7 a.m., made himself a strong cup of French coffee, and took the metro to his office. But deep inside, he felt something was missing. Every time his colleagues talked about international projects in London, New York, or Dublin, he remained silent, nodding, politely but feeling left out. His English was weak, and that frustrated him. In the evenings, he sat on his couch watching English movies with French subtitles, trying to repeat sentences but always stumbling after a few words. One rainy night, staring out the window as raindrops slid slowly down the glass, he realized he couldn't continue like this. His heart was beating fast as he picked up his phone, opened a flight booking website, and almost without thinking, bought a one-way ticket to London for 3 months later. He whispered to himself, "Enough fear. It's time to jump." Part 2. The hard goodbye and flight into the unknown. The months passed quickly. The day to leave arrived. His mother made breakfast early that morning, her smile soft, but her eyes filled with tears. His father hugged him tightly and said, "Son, you're grown up now. Don't be afraid. Make mistakes. That's how you learn." Luc picked up his suitcase. The train station, the airport, the boarding gate. Everything felt surreal, like he was watching someone else's life. His heart was heavy, but filled with excitement. As the plane lifted into the air, he looked out the window at the clouds and whispered, "This is the beginning of my new life." 2 hours later, he landed at Heathrow Airport in London. Everything was unfamiliar. The fast pace, the accents, the ba and signs in English. He took a deep breath, followed the signs to the underground, and headed to a small hostel he had booked. The room was tiny, with a simple bed and a desk by the window. But for Luc, it was a kingdom of new possibilities. Part 3. First encounter with the language and strangers. The next morning, Luc woke up early. In the small hostel cafe, he saw a group of young people talking in English. He hesitated, his palms sweaty. Finally, he gathered the courage and joined them. "Where are you from?" asked a cheerful girl. Luc froze for a moment, and then blurred. "Out, France, Lyon." He felt his face burn with embarrassment. But a Spanish guy named Carlos smiled warmly and said, "No, worry. We learn together." The conversation continued slowly, with long pauses and short sentences. But there was laughter. For the first time, Luc felt he was not alone in this journey. Part 4. Language classes and sweet but tough days. Monday came, Luc's first day in language class. His teacher, Susan, greeted everyone with a bright smile. "In this class," she said, "mistakes are welcome. Being shy is not." Classes were from 9 a.m. to noon. Afternoons were for practicing conversations in Hyde Park, and evenings were spent doing group projects in the hostel lounge. Every night, Luc returned to his room with a notebook full of new words. Sometimes he felt frustrated. He struggled to remember everything. More than once, tears of exhaustion filled his eyes. But every morning he stood up, ready to try again. After 3 weeks, something incredible happened. At a local cafe, Luc confidently ordered coffee and a croissant, in English, with no fear, no hesitation. Part 5. Friendship with Emily and first steps into real life. One afternoon, Luc was sitting in the library when a young British woman sat next to him. Her name was Emily. She had sparkling blue eyes and a friendly smile. "I see you're learning English," she said. "Yes," Luc replied, his voice shaky. "Would you like to practice with me?" From that day on, every evening they walked in the park talking, sometimes struggling, sometimes laughing. Emily was patient. Every time Luke made a mistake, she encouraged him with, "Great, say it again." Little by little, Luke became more confident. At a party one night, he stood up and told a short story about life in Lyon. Everyone listened. People clapped. That moment was like standing on top of a mountain for Lukey. Part 6. First job interview and a huge victory. One sunny afternoon, Emily said, "My company is looking for an intern. You should try." Luke felt nervous. "But my English is not that perfect," he said. "It doesn't need to be perfect," Emily replied. "You only need to show that you're willing to learn." Luke applied. On the interview day, his heart was pounding. "Tell me about yourself," the manager asked. Luke's hands trembled. He took a deep breath. "I am Luke. I come from Lyon. I want to learn. I am not perfect, but I try," he said. Softly but clearly, the manager smiled. "Perfect answer. Welcome to the team." Luke couldn't believe it. He had a job, a real job in London. Part 7. Return home with a bigger heart than ever. 3 months passed quickly. His English had improved beyond what he had imagined. He had friends from Spain, Italy, Brazil, and the UK. He had worked in an English office. He had overcome fear. At the airport, just before boarding his flight back to France, he looked around and felt proud. When he arrived in Lyon, his mother ran to him and cried, "My boy, you've changed!" Luke smiled and said, "I tried, and I learned." That night, sitting at his desk, he opened his old notebook and wrote one final line. "Today, I speak English. Tomorrow, I will chase bigger dreams."